That's one out at the end of Canal Street, off the highway. It's just gigantic.
It's huge. Yeah.
And that's where all the rich people are.
That's where we
Yep,
live.
that's where I knew I'd figure it out. Yeah. We're in the St. Louis Cemetery number 3. This one is the Grand Dame for the Catholic Church, the Archdiocese. We've got 47, 48 plus cemeteries in the city. Some are bigger, some are smaller, all different religious organizations. Some are owned by the city, and some are just simply private businesses. Because that's what this is a business at the end of the day. Well, we'll get into that. But here's the $64,000 question. Why are the cemeteries above ground?
Because 3 feet below is ground water.
Water table, flooding. 99% of tour guides are going to tell you that. 100% of locals are going to tell you that we bury above ground because of a water table issue and below sea level. That is incorrect. The French buried their dead in the ground. That's what they were used to. Highest patch of land they could find in the 17th teens and 20s was the edge of the Mississippi. The Mississippi would overflow its banks naturally, and yes, coffins did pop up out of the ground, and yes, they did float down the street to the back of town. That did happen. So the French put their cemetery at the back of what's now the French Quarter between Burgundy and Rampart. The French put stones and chains in the coffin to keep that coffin in the ground. That's the French solution, which means one entire block in the French Quarter is built on top of an in-ground cemetery. And every time they build a pool on that block, they have dug up coffins and bodies. Recently as 15 years ago. Get a room at the Maison de Puy and spend a little time in the pool. All right? That's all I'm gonna say. What happened was, the French in-ground cemetery ran out of space in 1789. It was full. Well, the Spanish were in control at that time and said, we are gonna teach the French proper burial practices. This is a Spanish custom. It was just serendipitous that it solved the flooding issue and spatial issue. You can go to Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Cuba, Belize, Brazil, Argentina, all Spanish colonies, all above ground cemeteries, and none of them have a water table issue. This is why. It's Spanish. It makes sense, so allow me to explain. These are family tombs. These are the most common type of tombs. They're all slightly different, depending on your family's wealth and taste or lack of. Now, behind every family tomb, behind the placard, you have 2 chambers. You can fit 2 coffins. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. How do you fit all 9 of those bodies into the 2 chambers? You can't cremate. But yeah, you just take a 2x4 and you just kind of squish Grandma to the back.
Well,
I'm kidding.
They're slowly being cremated.
Call her Grandma, okay? Yeah. Who is Catholic? Anyone?
Still not. Still no.
All right. My wife is
But
recovering.
I think,
You didn't change it yet.
yeah, we're not
No
convinced.
recruitment here, okay? But I would like to talk to you about the Church of Scientology.
Oh, okay.
I'm kidding, man. Yeah, that's some weird stuff.
I'm just kidding.
I know you're not because you look me in the eye. I got a friend in Clearwater, okay? Yeah, he can see the headquarters from his balcony. They're weird.
I work right beside a temple.
Oh boy, yeah.
It's such a weird place.
Yeah. Catholics did not allow cremation until the 1980s. But Catholics have loopholes. Seriously, party on Saturday, some Hail Marys on Sunday, all is forgiven, system works, don't knock it. Try it. You may need to. The Catholic period for mourning is 1 year and 1 day. And they discovered in these warm tropical regions, it will naturally cook the body down. After a year and a day, there's nothing left in that coffin except for bones and ashes. So when the next family member passes, everything is opened up. You pull the placard off, you bust through the bricks and seal it up. You pull those 2 coffins out and sweep up the ashes and bones. Below that bottom chamber, there's a little pit, a basement, a caveau, that goes down 3 to 4 feet, and that's where the ashes go into. What you have is the last 2 people who passed away are upstairs, and everyone else before them is down below in the basement. But it makes sense. This is incredible land management. We have family tombs, single tombs, with 50, 60, 70 family members in one tomb. Now, if you give every single family member their own plot of land, that gets expensive. This becomes an investment for your family. And that's the other factor. Family. Everybody's there. Okay? My wife has a friend with a family tomb in the Lafayette number 1. My wife's friend is going into the exact same chamber as her mom, her grandma, her great-grandma, her great-great-grandma. That's kind of beautiful. Everybody is in one spot, except for Uncle Steve. We don't really like Uncle Steve, so he's down the road with some in-laws. Who's thinking of a relative right now?
The majority of them?
Yeah. But that's why it's done. It's practical, it makes sense. This is not done anywhere else in the United States because it's not as profitable. This is a billion-dollar industry. Let me give you an example. Let's say 3 family members pass away at the same time. You have 2 chambers in the family tomb. What do you do with Uncle Steve?
I don't know, waiting to.
What's that?
In a waiting.
In a rental in the wall.
Yeah.
There's actual rentals.
Wow.
When
Oh.
that year and a day is up, you want to move Uncle Steve back into the family tomb. Because otherwise, you have to keep paying rent. And if you don't pay rent, they will evict you. This is a business at the end of the day. That is in the Garden District. That's the one across the street from Commander's Palace. Okay. That is owned by the city. We cannot go in. It is shut off to the general public. And that's because of illegal tour guides and vandalism. You see, 10 years ago, you could just walk into the St. Louis number 1 on the edge of the French Quarter. That's the oldest one, the most famous one, and it is owned by the Catholic Church. And then you'd just be wandering around on your own. Somebody would pop up from behind a tomb and offer to give you a little tour for 20 bucks. And that illegal tour guide, because we are licensed, that illegal guide was marking X on the grave. You guys scooch over, let this gentleman by. Thank you so much. You got it, babe, you got it? Yeah. They were marking X's on the tomb, telling you this is some voodoo ceremony. No, it's not. It was vandalism. And some of these guides were reaching into open tombs and pulling out pieces of human bones. That's illegal. That's a federal offense. That's bad juju. So the St. Louis number 1, edge of the quarter, was shut down to the general public. There is now only one tour company allowed to go inside. There is a guard at the front gate with a clipboard. You have to remain with the tour guide, and a fee goes to the Archdiocese. Lafayette number 1, that carnival-like atmosphere ended up over there. That was owned by the city. And you'd just walk in through the front gate on your own, and you'd be accosted by 6 different tour guides, like getting off a cruise ship in Jamaica. Hey, it's horrible. So the city shut that one down. We can't go in. They are supposed to be reopening it sometime this year, the Lafayette number 1. They have just built a little guard gate at the front entrance, and they're still working on all their paperwork and dynamics and getting everything in a row. There will be security at the gate. There will be a $5 admission fee, and there will be security rolling around to make sure there's no shenanigans. Okay? I always ask everybody to be mindful and respectful wherever you go. To a lot of people, this is weird and creepy and spooky, but to us it's sacred. You go to other places around the planet, and their burial traditions might seem weird and creepy and spooky, but to them it's sacred. So treat every graveyard and every grave as if that was your own family. We now have our 2 famous ones kind of shut off. Yeah. But also, movie and TV filming with a cemetery scene in New Orleans. Anyone seen a TV show with a New Orleans cemetery? A movie. Interview with a Vampire, the original movie.
Yes.
Yeah. Double Jeopardy, Bryan Cranston, Ashley Judd. Tommy Lee Jones and Ashley Judd. Bryan Cranston's in Your Honor on Showtime. American Horror Story, all of them. They're all in the Lafayette Cemetery, owned by the city. That's the only one you can film in. There is permitting, there is a fee, and there is security. Why can't you film in a Catholic cemetery?
Because it's holy ground.
Well, that and Dennis
Privacy.
Hopper and Peter Fonda.
It'll steal her soul.
Dennis Hopper and Peter Fonda.
Oh,
Yeah, I knew there was an old guy in the group. I
What
knew
was
it was Easy Rider.
Easy Rider.
Remember
yeah.
the movie?
Yeah,
Yeah? You ever seen it?
yeah, yeah.
All right. They're young. If you guys watch the movie,
Was it filmed in color?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh dear.
It's a must watch.
Yeah, it's a good one.
He's been quiet up till this point.
It's not a talkie though. So.
Don't watch the movie sober. It's really slow and boring. The more inebriated you are, the better it is. But Hopper and Fonda filmed a scene in the Catholic cemetery without permission. That scene was two drug-dealing hippie bikers who just picked up two prostitutes off of Bourbon Street. They all go out to the Catholic cemetery and all drop tabs of LSD, go on a drug-fueled mind melt, and there's a naked hooker climbing on top of your grandma's tomb. Not cool. So be mindful, be respectful. That's all we can. This is all natural. None of this is man-made. All these bayous and everything, this is what the original explorers discovered when they got here.
They just found a bridge in the middle of the
That's so crazy. Yeah. This guy again. Has anybody ever been to Central Park in New York City, though?
Yes.
Is that a big park?
Yes.
It's just under 580 acres. This park is 1,300. What do you want to do out here? That big building we rode around, that is the Museum of Art, a world-renowned museum. The King Tut exhibit was there in the 1980s. The lake that we rode along, on the other side, you can rent a kayak or a canoe and go under the bridge and go through this bayou and other bayous for hours and miles and just get lost. It's gorgeous. We have a sculpture garden, botanical garden, children's storyland with an antique wooden carousel, 2 18-hole golf courses. Go to the stables and rent a horse and go horseback riding. We have some of the oldest live oak trees in the planet. There are 800 to 900-year-old live oak trees out here. Yeah. We have the little train that rolls through for the kids, big and small. I've been on it myself. Don't judge. Okay. We have music festivals out here, weddings galore. If you're a bride in New Orleans, there is a photograph of you in your wedding dress with that arch bridge right there. And that is the Princess Tiana Bridge in the movie Princess and the Frog. Yeah. The Disney people sent photographers here. Watch behind you real quick. They photographed that bridge from every single angle and took the photographs to the animators and said, make this. And Princess Tiana is based upon a real New Orleans woman, Leah Chase, Dookie Chase Restaurant.
Oh yeah, we have that on our list for fried chicken.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yep. Leah Chase has since passed away, but she sassed Obama for putting hot sauce in his gumbo before he tasted it. That's why she's a Disney princess. Yeah. And you can get lost out here for hours and just not see another human being. And we are regular bicycle distance on single-speed beach cruiser bikes from the French Quarter. That's how close this is. So don't tell everybody, okay? Yeah. I love it. Busy on the weekends. Busy on the weekend. Aficionado. Nobody? Anyone ever hear of Edgar Degas, the French Impressionist? Nobody? We got one back there. Excellent, excellent.
I've heard the name.
Yeah. Are y'all familiar with the soft pastel paintings of ballerinas? That ballerina look familiar? That's Degas. The only French Impressionist to ever visit the United States of America. And he came here to visit his family. Now, Edgar Degas was born in France, but his mom and his grandmother were New Orleans Creoles. They were born in the colony. Degas had just spent 2 years at an art academy in Italy when he came here October 1872 to visit his family. He was here for 5 months. During that time period, he completed 18 paintings, said New Orleans brought his artwork to a more spontaneous, better art. Just imagine, you have an artistic inclination, and you're waking up every morning, and this is what you see to start your day. It will inspire you. So, he goes back to Europe. The first painting he sold to a museum in Europe was his painting of the New Orleans Cotton Exchange. Degas' uncle ran the Cotton Exchange. And then he gets there in Europe, ran into an old friend of his, another artist, some dude named Monet. Oh, now we're art aficionados. But that is when the French Impressionist movement in Europe started to explode. And part of that spark came from right here. That is an actual Degas statue. That is not a copy or a knockoff. That's a real deal. Yeah. This property is now a boutique hotel bed and breakfast. You can sleep in Degas' bedroom. Yeah. It's also a popular wedding destination. The Degas family owned the property all the way up until the turn of the century 1900s. Somebody bought the house in that first decade of the 1900s, and they came along and they cut the house right down the left-hand side of the door, moved that part of the house over, added the other half, and sold it off as 2 residences. But it's back into a single compound. So, David, the owner, is a really nice guy. Tours are given in the morning by the great-great-grandy of Edgar Degas, and her older sister will do art lessons at the Degas house by a member of the Degas family. And for an extra $20, $30, cocktails are available. It's New Orleans. And even half of the locals don't even know this is here. And last year, 2023, Macron, the president of France, was in town. Big event at the museum at the park where we were just at. On his way back, he made his motorcade pull over and hung out here for 2 hours with the owner, David, having cocktails and just checking out the ground.
Who was that?
Macron, the president of France. And then from there, we went to Frenchman Street and was bar hopping half the night. Macron was in 5 different clubs, listening to 5 different bands, just bouncing around, just having fun. You never know what you're going to run into in this city. But this is New Orleans. That's New Orleans. Frenchman Street is New Orleans. Got it? That's why we bring you out here.
New Orleans.
Clarksdale, Mississippi, in my opinion.
What's that?
Nashville.
A lot of people will actually say it was Memphis. Sun Records, 1951 with Elvis Presley.
Right.
That is incorrect. Directly behind me, that building that has a snowball sign, that is currently an arts gallery / laundromat. Think about that. Yeah. I need quarters for the dryer, and I'll take this painting for $500. 1940s, that was the J&M recording studio. Cosmo Matassa, an engineer. And it was a man named Dave Bartholomew, African-American musician and producer, believed to be the father of rock and roll in the United States. In 1949, he discovered a 19-year-old piano player in the lower 9th Ward, a kid named Antoine Domino, recording his first song, The Fat Man, right here in 1949, making it the birthplace of rock and roll. The very first recording ever by a 17-year-old Jerry Lee Lewis. The first recording ever of the song Tutti Frutti by Little Richards, right here where I have washed my skivvies. I'm not making this up. Ray Charles, Dr. John, the list just goes on and on and on. All right there. Yeah. When we say everybody from Led Zeppelin to Beyonce is inspired by New Orleans music, we mean this, literally and physically. So we're going to enter Armstrong Park, talk about our New Orleans jazz, and then some other music stories and my Led Zeppelin thing, Charles Buddy Bolden. But first, Louis. Does anyone know how Louis was introduced into the world of music? Hanging out in a red light district as a 9-year-old child. For 20 years, we had a 14-block area known as Storyville. It was a legal red light district, right outside the French Quarter and a couple of blocks this way. Anyone ever heard that term, Storyville? Historians, music experts have always believed that Storyville, this time period and area, is where our New Orleans style of jazz came from, that it grew organically. I'll get to where it came from in a minute. But the madams of these brothels would have to use little boys to run errands and deliveries for them. You know, we didn't have Uber Eats or DoorDash. So you'd open up the door, find some kid in the street, offer that kid a nickel, and one of those was Louis Armstrong. But when he's done with his errands, he is sitting on the stoops of the brothels checking out the musicians, not the girls. He's 9. Girls are still icky, okay? That's why. But Louis is now 10 years old, and it is New Year's Eve. He is firing a pistol in the air in celebration when he is arrested and thrown into a boys' school. Louis is adopted by the Karenofsky family, a New Orleans Jewish family. They gave him a cornet, music lessons, and the rest, as we know, is history. He took our New Orleans style of jazz to all 4 corners of the planet. Now, when Louis did not stay in New Orleans as an adult, okay? It's the 1920s, it's the 1930s. You're a black man in the Deep South. What are you gonna do? Move into a nice Jewish neighborhood in Queens. And he still remains there. Yeah. Now, everybody, like I said, thought, oh, and if you ever see old photographs of Louis, on occasion, you'll notice a Star of David on his coat. That's why. He grew up in a Jewish household. But our New Orleans style of jazz that we all know and love, it's very lively, it's very infectious. In that day and age, we had ragtime in Dixieland. Now, some jazz historians are trying to figure out there had to be a spark and a moment, an event, or a person that led to the New Orleans style. And every which way they kept looking, everything led back to this man and this man alone. His name is Charles Buddy Bolden. We have one known photograph of the man and no actual recordings of his music. And technology was just coming about at that time. What's up, Bunny? How you doing? Doing good? Good.
Got groceries. Woo!
All right.
Lunch is
Making
coming.
groceries. Where was I?
No recordings.
No recordings.
No
Thank
recordings,
you. Somebody's paying attention. Yeah. Buddy, as a little child, found a little tin horn in the trash. Used to run around the neighborhood, bleating the crap out of it, annoying everybody. And then he finally got his hands on an actual cornet. But he didn't learn how to play music properly. He didn't learn how to read music. He just got as close as he could with his ear. So his style was very improvisational. Any song was not quite what the song was supposed to be. He was a proper rock star for about 6 or 7 years traveling the country. And he liked his alcohol and his weed and his cocaine. And then his mom stuffed him into a mental institute. By the time the man died, they didn't even know who he was in that mental institute. And then these researchers discovered Buddy had a multiple personality disorder. Buddy was a schizophrenic. What this means is our New Orleans style of jazz that we all know and love came from the mind of a madman. And this is apropos. This is not Kenny G elevator music jazz, people, okay? I know he's got the locks, I'm working on mine, but this is toe tapping, butt shaking, it will infect you. Everybody is inspired by this music. Everybody. Now, if you're a music festival person, anyone a festival person? As a younger man, I'm older, that's a little too crowded for me, but we have festivals throughout the year. Even our small ones are fantastic. They'll have little free festivals in this park. Just last year, one of those festivals, Cyril Neville, one of the actual Neville brothers, was the headliner for free. A few months before that, it was Irma Thomas, our New Orleans Queen of Soul, for free. Does anyone know who Irma is? You all know her most famous song. You have been listening to this song your entire life. Because every mortgage payment, car payment, for children's educations were paid for by the Rolling Stones. A little song called Time Is On My Side, written by a black woman in New Orleans. Led Zeppelin, When the Levee Breaks, written by Memphis Minnie, 1920s. Do you see a pattern here? Yeah. Jazz Fest. That's what you want to do. Get a ticket for one day at Jazz Fest, and then get tickets for all the smaller shows around the city. That's where the fun stuff happens. Preservation Hall. Anyone been there?
We're going tonight.
You got tickets?
Yes.
Excellent. It's tiny. They do not serve drinks. They do not serve food. It seats 40 people. You've got 4 benches, 10 people on each bench, and about 20 people standing. That's it. You go in, you hear the set, and then 45 minutes later, you're out. Just last year, Jazz Fest, Robert Plant climbed on stage to perform in front of that audience of 60. The year before that, it was Pete Townsend of The Who climbed on stage to perform to an audience of 60. And when Pete climbed on stage, who's sitting in the audience? Dave Grohl, Foo Fighters. He loved Preservation Hall. And sitting next to Dave Grohl is Billy Strings.
Wow.
This happens all the time. Pat Benatar went uptown to go climb on stage with Trombone Shorty. Fleet and the Red Hot Chili Peppers went over to the Fillmore to climb on stage with Leo Nusatelli, an African-American bass player who was in his 70s.
Who's gonna be there tonight?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. You're going to have a fantastic show. Anybody that performs at Preservation Hall, it's a proper New Orleans experience. Good job, y'all. Oh, and the Brennans and Commander's Palace, and you guys are just
We
like,
did a little homework.
shit. Yeah. Share your notes with the others, okay? Yeah. I got married, yeah. All right. First of all, before we get to Led Zeppelin, when y'all go back home, if you have a group of guy friends that are going to come to New Orleans, football games, sports events, Bros Weekend, Bachelorette group, they're going to go to Bourbon Street. They're going to go drinking and chasing tail. That's what we do, ladies. And when we get a little inebriated and a little amorous, we have a tendency to make some poor decisions. Right, guys?
Yeah, sure.
Wow.
Man, she can screw you under the
She got
bus.
a job with Greyhound.
Come on over here. I'll be your friend.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Just let them know. Bourbon Street, the first 7 blocks are pure frat boy hell. And then it immediately and seamlessly becomes the gay district. So what happens is, you start your evening block by block on Bourbon Street, Huge Ass Beer by Strip Club and Lap Dance, Strip Club and Lap Dance by Huge Ass Beer. It's the end of the evening, and guess which end of Bourbon you're on?
Other end.
Hello, sailor. Yeah. So when they're done arguing with you, show them this example. And that would be Led Zeppelin. And they love this city. Okay? Jimmy Page has an ex-wife and an adult son who've been in the city almost 4 decades now. 1972, they're on their North American tour. Well, New Orleans and the Royal Orleans Hotel in the French Quarter. Who's at the Royal Orleans?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are like battling 100 for 100 for today. The Royal Orleans Hotel was their headquarters. They had a private jet. So when they wrapped up a concert in Tampa or Atlanta or Memphis or Houston, the band is on the jet and they're back in a couple hours hanging out for a few days while the crew does all the hard work. One evening, John the bass player went out and picked up a little cutie. Now they're back at the hotel, the Royal Orleans, they're partying. He's a rock star, they're getting wasted, and they're smoking a doobie. Well, they pass out and that joint catches the bed on fire. The hotel staff bust into the room and John is passed out on his bed. Well, there is his date, and she's passed out with her willy hanging out.
Oh boy.
And this is a true story. It's been confirmed to me by Jimmy. Yeah. Anyone ever hear this story? My Zeppelin fans? Yes, you have. You've heard it many, many times over the years.
Oh, song.
It's a song.
You will immediately recognize the song, you've just never paid attention to the lyrics. It's on their 1976 album Presence. The name of the song is Royal Orleans for the hotel. So pull up the lyrics when you pull up the song and read down. I don't have the entire song memorized, but there are 4 lines towards the end. New Orleans Queen sure know how to smooth it. For some, that seems all right. When I step out, strut down with my sugar, she best not talk like Barry White. Fact check me. True story, hand to God. I can't make this stuff up. I have my final show, and there was one woman at the show who an artist friend brought with her. And I didn't know who this woman was until the end of the show, and it turns out to be Amanda Paracho Gomez, Jimmy Page's wife at the time. 1 week later, she brought Jimmy to my house to meet me. And we spent the entire hour talking about New Orleans, and we have a mutual friend, Andy at Barrister's Dowry. That's all we did was talk about New Orleans. I never even got an autograph or a picture because I was just like, it was still cool. spent enough time in New Orleans, though, this can happen to anybody and everybody. Just normal Joes, living a normal life, working a normal job, and within a couple of years, you will know half of these people. The town is just that small.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You said you're a music buff person? Get to Frenchman Street. Seriously, all of you get to Frenchman Street. You'll have a much better experience.
Hey, you mentioned ragtime. Is there any place that plays ragtime still in the area?
It's hard to find. You know, everybody loves the brass bands with the wall of horns. It's just so much more lively and all of that. I know Palm Court Cafe down on Decatur Street, they will play some older style of that type jazz. You have the Paddle Wheel, the jazz band. There's a bunch of older white guys who will be playing that style. But once you've seen a proper New Orleans brass band, there's just no going back. You know, that wall of horns, that high energy. In fact, I'll give you an example, and look them up too. There's a band called the Bonarama, New Orleans band. They are drummer, electric bass, electric guitar, sousaphone, trumpet, and 4 trombones. This absolute wall of horns will knock you on your ass. They do a cover of War Pigs. You know the song War Pigs? Deep Purple? Or is it Black Sabbath? Come on, you guys don't know? Because the trombone is the one instrument that can slide from note to note like a guitar. So instead of a guitar, you've got this wall of horns going wah, 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 wah. Knock you on your ass. Look them up, trust me. And it's just all kinds of weird stuff. Got it?
Got it.
Just get the Frenchman.